Video 9. So this is scheduled to be shown in May. It's an interesting thing filming these videos. A lot of setup with some lights and a microphone. And yes, I get nervous. Although I'm enjoying sharing the information, I'd like to make a request of you. Please send me questions, comments. The lack of interaction is way out of my comfort zone, which is okay. I committed to show up and I will. But I'd like to deliver more that is of service to you. So let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're receiving so that I can keep building from there. So today I want to share with you a little more from the having not having. And back in one of the videos I said I would talk more about wealth, so I'm including that. And this question comes up a lot in my work, and even on the Thursday nights when I do tapping, I'll hear that sometimes the same people are requesting the same thing over and over and over again. So how do you actually vibrationally align with the emotion that you're seeking? Because once you get in the emotional place consistently, you're going to bring more that creates that good emotion in your life. So let's talk about it again from frequency and vibration. Now, anything you're doing, it's not necessarily what you're doing, it's the frequency you're in. So in your desire to create, you want to be in a resonant frequency with what you desire. So, well, let's start with wealth because that one's easy. So when you're thinking money, you want to really pay attention if you're paying a bill, if you're purchasing something, if you're paying your taxes, if you're paying or even receiving income. If you get a paycheck from a company, it can be kind of ouchy seeing how much is taken out of it, yes? Or if you're receiving payment from a client or paying advertising, whatever it is, money coming in and money going out. What frequency, what emotion, what vibrational space are you in the receiving or the circulating of money? That's where you want to pay attention. When you're paying a bill, are you in gratitude for the services you have received? Are you remembering to hold a space of expansiveness and gratitude that somebody thought you were trustworthy enough to give you the electricity or the heat, the gas for heat in your house or the water in your house before you even had to pay for it? Or if you're gassing up your car, are you in the space of gratitude for the roads, that we have gasoline, that in this country it's so easy for us to drive ourselves anywhere? It's amazing. That is an expansive space. And if wealth is, or money, ease is something that interests you, you want to have enough of it to feel comfortable. Whether for you that means millions of dollars, or for somebody with even less needs, they still want the expansive feeling around money. And so where do you start to bring that in? Well, you create it right where you are. If you're always projecting that you're going to feel good about money when you have a lot, if you're always projecting into the future, you're missing the point vibrationally. You've got to start right where you are. So I'm going to go through a couple more examples and that'll help you really grasp this concept. So happiness. Many people, I'm going to back up for a minute on happiness. So the emotional body, the emotions of a human were given to us as a gift. Unfortunately, it's kind of gotten jacked up a little bit. We tend to use emotions to hurt ourselves and to even hurt others, or we get trapped in them and suffer. But actually, the emotional body was given to humans as a great gift. Negative emotion is a signal to you that you're actually out of alignment with truth. The emotions are to prompt us. They're the guidance system. Go towards what feels good. And yet what happened? You know, we came here and due to some bizarre setup, a human parent can't really give a human child everything they need. It just can't be done. If you know anything about me, you know I love being a mom. And yet the truth is, humans need a lot. And so on this journey of evolution, where there's no end game, it's all about evolving, most of us as children were never taught how to process our emotions or how to use them as a guidance system. And at some level of survival, we started just repressing emotion and not dealing with it. Or we would have an emotion that would tell us, hey, this doesn't feel good to me, and I know that I'm here to feel good. And then there would be an angry or an abrupt reaction, and so we'd get the wrong message. Well, maybe I'm not supposed to respond that way. How many of us, never learned how to deal with anger? And we didn't want to be angry in a way that was abusive or explosive or painful, so we just kept shoving it down and wouldn't access anger at all, which meant we didn't have boundaries. Anger in and of itself is not bad. It lets you know when a boundary is crossed or when you're not maintaining your space or your focus in a way that's uplifting to you and others around you. And yet if you were raised around a lot of anger and you just saw it as a bad thing, you wouldn't be accessing it very well. So the emotional system is here to serve us. It's not out to get us. It's not out to make us suffer. It's a matter of realigning it in a certain way. So if you've repressed a lot of emotion because you're afraid of anger, you're afraid of speaking up, you're afraid of not being the good child that's seen but not heard, if you have a lot of that going on, the problem with that is it limits your ability to feel the really good emotions. You've suppressed a lot. We also jack up our emotional system through thought. When you're worried about the past or you're worried about the future, you're actually overloading the emotional system with things that are not true. And so it can get a little gnarly undoing that. But I'm going to tell you how to move through it a little more quickly, a little more joyously. Start where you are. So maybe you're like, I really want happiness, but I'm not even sure how that feels. Well, you do know how it feels, but only at a very lower frequency, at a small, if you're thinking of the whole enchilada of happiness, maybe you're just feeling a teeny tiny percentage of it. That's where you start. If you're thinking the happiness has to look like this amazing big thing, and you can't really be happy till you're like glowing with it, you're not going to get there. It's always going to be far away from you. So start right where you are. Start noticing happiness. If you put your attention on something, you're going to get a lot more of it. You're also going to get a lot of insight. You're going to educate yourself. You're going to tell all of your bodies that this is something you want in your life. So notice happiness. See it in other people. See it on TV, in advertisements. Say, oh, that looks like happiness. Really get into the thought of recognizing and inviting happiness into your life. Before you know it, you're going to start aligning with it in your own experience. Think of things that do make you happy. So maybe you only feel a little happy, but that's where you start. Maybe you only have a little bit of money right now, but start feeling the pleasure of having even that much, and you'll create a bigger space. So whether it's money or happiness, that's how you do this. You can't wait till it's over there because that's actually the not having vibration. So practice the frequency right where you are. How are you going to be aware of something like happiness? Got to ask yourself questions. Does this feel good? How would I define it? How good could I feel? Do I think I'm close to happy, or is this something else? It's a matter of putting your attention on what you truly desire. Okay, so health. We talked about this in one of the other videos. We tend to notice the things that aren't working right. Aging, aches and pains. But if you really want to know a high level of health, start noticing it. Who looks healthy? What do you read that makes you feel good? What fills you with vitality? Educate yourself on nutrition, but only in a way that feels empowering and good. It's kind of tricky these days because there's so much information that you can flip automatically into being wrong. So let me see if I have time to go into that here too. So the two frequencies we have, not having and having, and there's a framework for humans that we're actually here in the process to dismantle at this unique time on Earth, is that wrong and right. Which is really interesting that we kind of divide it black and white, wrong and right. But I'll tell you this, if you look really deep into any area that you're not excelling, that you're not enjoying, that you don't feel accomplished and successful in, there's a frequency of being wrong. Now, I started noticing this the other day. I actually have learned so much about nutrition and food that I almost have some sense of wrongness with anything I'm eating because I know so many different food combinations, so many different processes. And so it doesn't really even matter what I'm ingesting. If I'm in this frequency that I'm doing something wrong, my body's not going to utilize it for my best good because there's conflicting messages there. And I invite you in everything. Happiness. How can you get happiness wrong? But I hear people say that all the time. When they're seeking happiness, they feel like something's wrong with them that they don't know happiness already. So it's a big framework. You'll see it come up more and more in the next videos because this is what we're actually dismantling. Because wrong is always attached to fear at some level or layer. And that's what we're here to step out of. Fear is all about survival mode. And we're here to start thriving now. It's a very unique time on earth. And so look for this. Where are you making yourself wrong about money or happiness or health? And know that it's not what you're doing so much, but the frequency you're doing it in. Become very conscious. Pay attention. Decide what it is you want and put your focus there. Let's look at acceptance. Now, this just actually came up in class, and if you've been struggling with feeling accepted, it can really limit how you perceive yourself. It can limit your courage to move forward into all that you deserve. And so how do you deal with something like acceptance? Again, start right where you are. You know, your mind is trained. We use these filters. And so the mind is trained by what you've been taught or by what you've told it most often and most consistently. So if you have a belief that you've been rejected due to your size, due to a compromised, I don't know, facial feature or a handicap of some kind, or maybe you don't feel smart, whatever story it is that you've trained your mind, either you've been taught or you trained it yourself through your repetitive thought patterns or through emotions that you didn't handle, you want to come back and start looking somewhere you're accepted, just as you are. At work, you're accepted as an employee. In your family, you're accepted, maybe as the scapegoat, maybe as the oddball, maybe as the baby, maybe as the bossy one, but you are accepted. So what you want to do is start right where you are. Doesn't mean you're going to end there. It means you're going to start where you are and look for acceptance. Where are you accepted? You're accepted as a customer, as a client, to everybody who takes your money in exchange of a service. You're accepted as a patron of a restaurant. So there are areas that you are accepted. And yet if you do not invite your mind to start creating this filter in a more empowering way, you're going to keep going back to your old story of being judged and being criticized and being rejected. So you really want to look where you are now. Where can you find acceptance? Right where you are. And allow that to expand out until it becomes your dominant knowing about you. Nobody can give us these things. Nobody. Even wealth. If you were to win it through the lottery, you might think the state's giving it to you, but you'll surely lose it if you don't have a frequency of enjoying wealth. Or it could cause you to suffer if you have scarcity consciousness even with great wealth. So nobody can give you the vibrational, emotional space you want with any of those things except you. Peace. It can be a busy, crazy time. I like to juggle a lot sometimes, but I also actively spend time in peace. I look for peace. I feed the sense of peace within me by nourishing it regularly. So again, start right where you are. And if you want to create more peace, then really get clear. What are you doing? Where can you be in a frequency of peace as you're doing it? It would be very nice to just settle in and relax, even if you're washing dishes. If you're driving, can you create a sense of peace in your car? Any little way you can start expanding your attention on peace that already exists in your life will lead you into a greater perspective. And this is what we're here to do. Expand our consciousness, expand our experience of being us. And now, for the first time on earth, it's about expanding into thriving and joyful living, being the boss of ourselves, and having a great time. Thank you for joining me. Catch you next month.